You ever watch someone try to erase you with a tow truck in the middle of a blizzard? I have. That's how all this started, a pair of yellow hazard lights flickering like a warning I didn't need winding up my road in whiteout conditions, dead set on hauling off my truck. Not just any truck either. The same battered F-350 I'd spent all winter running through snow, carving out the only passable trail in the whole valley. I stood there, wind howling so loud through the pines you could barely hear your own breath, watching this driver fight his way up my drive, clipboard shaking in his hand. I knew what he was after, but I let him come close anyway. You gotta let people show you who they are, right? He finally makes it, boots sunk halfway to his knees, face covered up except for his eyes. He squints at my truck, at the plow welded to the front like a shield, the chains, the salt spreader tools, not toys. My truck wasn't on their land, wasn't abandoned, hell, it wasn't even off. Engine rumbling, warming for another pass, while my daughter Claire sat inside the cabin waiting on the heat to hold steady. The tow guy shouts something about community vehicle violation, non-approved equipment, which if you've ever had to deal with one of these HOA types, you know is just code for, we don't like looking at your stuff. I just looked back at him, asked if he saw the plow. He hesitated, looked again, and you could see it hit him, the stupidity of what he'd been sent to do. I'm not touching that, he muttered. You're the only reason this road's still visible. Then he walked off, leaving 2 boot tracks in the silence. And that's when I knew it wasn't about rules. It was about power. They weren't trying to find me. They wanted me disabled. But see, when snow rules the land, the man with the plow is king, and not everybody likes that. It didn't start with the tow truck. It started with a cheap little sign jammed into a drift in front of my garage, orange letters flapping in the wind. Violation, unauthorized equipment storage. 2 days later came the letter. I moved up here for quiet after 30 years running search and rescue, pulling folks out of half-buried cars, melting snow for IV drip, stuff you wouldn't wish on your worst enemy. Bureaucracy, though, that'll kill you slower. When I retired, I bought this last scrap of land above Glacier Hollow, 5 acres, with nothing but the woods and a road I had to keep open myself every week, plow or no plow. Back then, no HOA, just neighbors scattered and quiet. But things change. People move in. Developers start carving up the valley, and suddenly there's a Glacier Ridge Visual Harmony Board. I never signed a thing. They had no jurisdiction. County records, my easement. Everything was tight. But then there's Karen Whitlow. Every neighborhood's got a Karen, right? President of the new HOA ex-decor consultant from Phoenix, came up here with big plans and no patience for reality. She didn't like that I kept the plow mounted. Said it ruined the aesthetic. She stood there with her coffee and her scarf, snapping pictures of my driveway, frowning when I showed her the line where her rules stopped. And that's when the letters started. Formal notice, $180 fine. Failure to comply, escalation promised. I ignored it. Got a warning sticker on my window. Then an email, some made-up community safety list claiming my plow was a hazard. Listen, I only have one kid, Claire, 16, sweet, a little fragile with asthma. The only reason I installed that diesel heater was her. I started keeping my own file, HOA interference. Pictures, printed letters, calls to the county trail cam set up by the mailbox. I knew how these games went. I'd spent too long in whiteouts to get lost in the fog of petty politics. That first blizzard, I watched the houses disappear under snow, and I knew this was about to get ugly. Didn't want enemies, but winter doesn't care about intentions. It just tests what you're made of. These people, they'd rather see a neat street than a safe one. Every day a new letter. Every day another neighbor looking away. When Karen showed up with her little squad measuring tape out, volunteers in matching jackets, I almost laughed. Snow berm exceeds regulation height, she said, pin clicking. Obstructs line of sight. I pointed down the trail, fire access, not HOA. County rules beat hers every time. One of the kids looked spooked. Karen just pursed her lips. Unfriendly environment, she said. Lady, this is Montana, I told her. It's a blizzard, not brunch. I printed 3 copies of my easement and went inside. But I knew what she was after. Standardization. Uniformity. No room for the stubborn old neighbor who remembers when the valley was just pines and snowdrifts. My plow ruined her vision. The heater pipes, the solar array, she hated all of it. So the letters came faster and the fines got steeper. $180, $320, $500. Interest. My daughter found the next one a legal threat. Seizure of non-compliant vehicles. I looked at the line that made my stomach turn impound per HOA Clause 9C. That's when I knew they'd be back not just with a tow, but with a plan. So I got smarter. More cameras, more documentation. Called to my lawyer, she told me don't move the truck, record everything. Next morning I found footprints around my diesel tank, small, narrow, not mine or Claire's. No fuel missing, just somebody checking for weak points. That's when my old instincts kicked in. Not rage, not fear procedure, survival. The next letter was different. Ivory paper, fake seal, all the trappings of authority. Now they wanted every piece of equipment gone, plow heater, fuel tanks, all in 5 days. I laughed. That utility jacket they cited, fireproof sheeting, kept the furnace alive when it hit -28. I tried reasoning, brought down the county's emergency weather declaration, highlighted the clause about snow equipment being exempt. Karen didn't even look up. "Perhaps this isn't the right community for you," she said, closing the door in my face. Next morning, orange survey flags lined my property stakes, driven deep angles, all wrong. Karen had remapped the HOA easement, pushing their trail 30 feet into my buffer zone. I caught one of the volunteers, Ryan Kidd, from down the road, placing another flag. "You're trespassing," I told him. "It's private land. You just crossed a federal easement." The kid ran off, scared half to death. But Karen didn't stop. Community email blast equipment, endangering visual harmony and child safety. A picture of my truck engine running psychological hazard. Called for volunteers like it was some militia muster. That night I unbolted the tarp off my plowshed, rolled out the big rig, parked it in full view. No threats, no letter, just proof I wasn't backing down. Someone slashed my snowcat tire that night. I had footage, pressure logs, the works. I started cataloging every incident: trespass, false notices, sabotage. The blizzard just kept coming. Drifts chest high. I knew what was next. They wanted me isolated. In isolation, that's what kills you up here. Then it got dirty. Claire woke up short of breath. Furnace intake packed with snow, shoveled, not drifted. Deliberate. That was the line for me. They'd gone after my daughter, after the one thing that mattered. Every letter that followed was more absurd than the last violation for visual disharmony, emergency fuel storage, industrial tires. All fined, all tracked to a fake registry run out of Karen's personal email. But I knew how to build a case, not the kind for Facebook, but the kind that holds up in court. Scanned every letter, timestamped the footage, matched delivery times with trail cam stills. Even flagged a plate that belonged to a landscaping contractor, Karen's friend from a past job. This wasn't about a plow anymore. It was about control. They wanted the last free house on the ridge. But I've survived worse. 14 hours in a crashed chopper at 7,000 feet. You learn how to outlast the cold and people like Karen. Claire's asthma got worse. Furnace vent sabotaged again. I filed a report with the county sheriff. He tried to reach my cabin, got stuck, never made it past the gate. Karen intercepted him, had a chat, sent him away. I filed a FOIA request, pulled every zoning update, mapped every communication between the HOA and county. The evidence piled up. Then came the final notice. Karen claimed an online vote. 19 people supposedly demanded my equipment gone. No date, no minutes, just a signature matched 98% to Karen's own. That night, power died. Generator cord slashed. I found my emergency diesel line cut clean, not chewed, not weathered, just a razor one stroke. Claire was wrapped up in blankets, breathing shallow, while whoever did this tried to freeze her out. I sat down, took stock. Furnace down, fuel sabotaged, generator out. Nearest EMT 45 minutes away, if they could even make it past the snow gates. I made a new file, attempted disruption of emergency heat. Fresh footprints, running shoes, not boots. 2 teens caught trying to break into my snowcat. I scared them off, didn't chase. Just logged it, called the sheriff again, filed everything with my attorney. This was now criminal endangerment. I watched Claire's sleep color gone from her cheeks and realized it wasn't a siege anymore. It was a test to see who'd break first. But they'd forgotten who I was. In search and rescue, you don't break. You dig. You wait for your moment. Mine came at 4:17 a.m., groaning from the slope, a crack under the snow. Not wind, not normal. A landslide starting. I had the maps, the real ones, the ones that showed the emergency flood bypass, the one the HOA had built right over. Phase 3 of their development patios and fire pits poured over a slow-motion disaster. I had the blueprint signed in '46, stamped by a county engineer. That morning I opened the bypass, dug out the trench, pried up the ice, let the land breathe. By midday, water started carving its own path. HOA snow gates were sealed lower. Trail blocked by Karen's decorative fence. Upper ridge collapsed. Whole valley trapped. Residents tried to leave, couldn't. HOA's central snow plan meant nobody had supplies, nobody could plow, nobody understood what was coming. Gravity did the rest. Wall of snow let go, slid right through Phase 3. Smothered patios, fire pits, vinyl fences gone. Karen was out there screaming, phone glued to her ear. I lit a flare, not for them, but to mark my spot. The bypass was doing its job finally. Neighbors showed up. Ryan, red-faced, asked if they could help clear the bypass. Grab a shovel, I said. We dug, we sweated, we drank burnt coffee from soup cans. By the end, more joined. Not to blame to build. Claire came out alive, safe. The valley thawed, not just from the snow, but from the lies. But nature wasn't done. Concrete over the old trench meant the meltwater built up. We gathered at the plaza, now a shallow pool. I took my spade, found the cap, and started breaking concrete. Ryan joined, then Mrs. Fletcher, then others. Water hissed through concrete, caved, fire pit dropped, and the bypass finally ran clear. People started seeing what was really buried here. What else had Karen hidden? I asked, blueprints snapping in the wind. Silence. Some walked home, others ripped down HOA signs. Claire asked if Karen would come back. I told her people like her always do, just not always in person. That night the sheriff called. He'd seen my file, my evidence, the forgeries, the surveillance. "You've got a case," he said, "and a damn good one." HOA tried to sue me. New signatures, same threats. We went to court. My lawyer Rachel presented the blueprints, the fake notices, trail cam shots of volunteers sabotaging my heat. The judge saw through it. HOA's claims denied, their injunction tossed. Judge ordered an independent survey. Public safety trumped aesthetics. Rachel whispered, "You just beat a corrupt board with a map." But it was never about the map. It was about remembering who the land serves. Karen got indicted. Negligence, forgery, misappropriation. She ran. Press came, but I let them film the trench, the new signs we'd carved, "Do not obstruct." Nature remembers. The valley voted HOA dissolved, replaced with a road and maintenance committee. No more violations, no more fake fines. People looked out for each other again. Spring finally came. Claire stood barefoot on the porch, breathing easy. We rebuilt the trench, posted real signs. Inspector from the county showed up, took notes, thanked me for thinking ahead. I handed him the 1946 blueprint. "Not ahead," I said, "just back to what already worked." Now every development in the zone has to show their flood paths public and clear. We lit a fire that night, neighbors bringing cider, folding chairs and stories. Claire played old songs. Mrs. Fletcher brought a quilt stitched from old HOA banners. I watched smoke curl, thinking peace might actually stick this time. Some folks asked why I didn't sue back, didn't run Karen through the mud. The truth, nature did the job better than I ever could. Patient, relentless, always finds her way home. Final line I carved into the post a month later just for me. This wasn't revenge, this was physics. Now let me ask you something. What would you have done? Would you have fought back or tried to keep the peace, even when the peace was built on lies? Drop your story in the comments. I'll be here reading every single one, making sure no one ever gets snowed in or buried by power-hungry neighbors again.